Good evening, North Metro Muskies Inc. chapter members. First of all, I just want to thank the chapter for all your support over the years. I appreciate your contributions to the management of other species in the Metro, including walleye, invasive carp, and of course muskies. Really appreciate all your support. Just want to thank you, and I always enjoy working with you guys and interacting with you via email and through you guys helping us purchase items for, muskie management and, like I said, other fish species. So thanks for everything. So what I'm going to do is Dan sent me a list of topics, questions, items that he wanted me to discuss here tonight. So I'm just going to go right down the list. I don't know how long this is going to be, but at the end, I'd say the best thing to do is if you have any follow-up questions, you can reach me. Just go to go on and Google or go to our DNR website and then look up East Metro Area Fisheries office, and then all of our contact information is there. Or Dan has my email address and my work phone number. You can get those from him as well. So, like I've said to you guys in the past, you guys are. You're buying fishing licenses, you're buying fishing equipment, you're paying us to work for the fishermen of Minnesota. So do not hesitate to ask me anything. Essentially working for the anglers. You guys are great to work with, and don't hesitate if you have questions or concerns you want to talk to me about. So feel free anytime. So the first question is the status of the muskie management plan for 2021 and beyond, including the long range plan. So to answer that question, we are currently deciding on our long range plans, and we're leaning towards holding off on starting the process until we're allowed to have in-person meetings with our statewide pike muskie work group. It's very important that we are in the same room with the work group. Just having that face-to-face interaction is really important, and just having virtual meetings, it's not ideal, and I'd rather hold off until we can have those in-person meetings to actually officially start the process. It doesn't mean we can't start preparing for it and working for that, and we have and we're doing that right now, and we have some items that we're already discussing internally with our Muskie Tech Committee that we can cover, but when we officially start that process, we need to have those in-person meetings. So, and then also most of our statewide planning and stocking and sampling, our protocols and kind of our plans were completed back in 2015. So we're basically just following that plan. You never want to say cruise control, because that kind of, to me, cruise control says you're not really working or doing anything. Because we're working and we're working on the things that we've laid out in the protocols, in the plans that we've laid out, and we're just continuing those. So if we have to wait another year to start the long range plan, then so be it, in my humble opinion. But that's kind of where we're at right now. And then also of note is we'll be doing separate long range plans for pike and muskie, whereas before both pike and muskie were included in the same long-range plan. This time they're going to be separate. On to the next question. Stocking plans in the metro area as well as Mille Lacs, Vermilion, and Western Lakes, West Battle, Pelican, Miltona, Detroit Lakes, etc. And then chapter opportunities, if any, for stocking or overstocking. As most of you know, no muskie fingerlings were stocked in 2020. And a small number of lakes received some fall yearlings, which you guys contributed to the purchase of those spring yearlings from Jost that we raised down in the Waterville State Fish Hatchery. So, and you're all aware of that. And then just knowing that our fingerling capacity, production capacity, is about 30,000 in the state, something that we feel like it's a comfortable number. It's what we can. It's manageable. It's just simply not possible to make up all this missing or all the stock fish in 1 year, and nor do we need to. It's 1 year. We've said it with walleyes. I mean, it's we do the best we can, but sometimes when you're in a pandemic and you have a year like we've had this year, sometimes it's okay just to step back and let Mother Nature do her thing and not worry about stocking fish in 1 year. But But I'm still very proud of what we accomplished last year with your guys' help with those yearlings, and I'll discuss that a little bit more later. But I guess so several years ago, the Muskie Tech Committee put together a stocking master sheet that prioritized waters for stocking and balanced our annual needs to about 30,000 fish. And this provides for long-term stable stocking in a given year that can be evaluated in the future. So kind of going back to what I was talking about, kind of that cruise control aspect of what we're doing. We already have a good plan in place. We're just continuing to follow that. And the stocking master sheet has served us well in allocating fish to those high priority waters. So when production was below a target, and we were distributing surplus when our production exceeded targets, we had a plan, and so that's what's great about that stocking master spreadsheet. So I guess going back to what happened in 2020 and moving forward into 2021. So for lakes that were normally biennial stocking, so basically stocked every other year, that were scheduled in 2020 but skipped, the recommendation right now is to stock them in 2021 and then resume their regular even year biennial stocking strategy of 2022. So they'd be stocked in consecutive years. So basically, so for lakes, so these, this would be just an example here. So lakes stocked in 2018, scheduled to be skipped in 2019 because they're biennial, and then they're missed in 2020. They'll be stocked in 2021 as kind of a makeup, and then it'll be stocked again in 2022 and then skipped in 2023 just to kind of resume their normal biennial every other year schedule. If these lakes were not added for 2021, like we're planning on doing this year, they effectively could have 3 consecutive missing stocked year classes, and we don't want to do that. So we're taking kind of an aggressive approach. We're going to bump up our kind of annual quota from 30,000 to right around 36 or 37,000, and we think we can do that, and we're going to make it a priority to do that in 2021. So that's kind of where we're at. So I guess in building the 2021 list, there were some waters that received significant surplus in 2019. Some received fall yearlings because we had a bunch of extra fish in 2019. Some received fall yearlings in 2020, which I'll discuss in a little bit, or they were lower on the priority waters, and we felt that they could be missed. So basically, additional water slated for stocking in 2021 increases, like I said before, the overall production target of about 5,000 fish. We feel like it's achievable, and then we'll also have Wolf Lake at Tower. It's a rearing pond up there that will be back online in 2021. So we feel like we're setting ourselves up to be in pretty good shape, even with making up from some of the lakes that were missed in 2022. So I know I'll just give you kind of a rundown of what we're stocking. Rebecca's getting stocked with 254 fingerlings. Pleasant is a backup brood lake. You can't fish there. It's in East Metro. It's in City of North Oaks. That's getting 273. Vermilion, Lake Vermilion up in Tower is getting 3,000. That's an annual stocking. All those fish will be pit tagged. Owasso is getting 147 pit tagged fish this year. Minnetonka is 2,925 fingerlings this year. Forest is getting 766. Waconia is 830. Cedar is 63. Harriet's 85. And then White Bear is slated for about 1,300. The St. Croix River and then the St. Croix Lake are receiving 2,000 in the lake portion and 500 in the river portion. Detroit Lake up in the DL area is receiving 3,000. Pelican, Fergus Falls area is receiving 813. Miltona is receiving 1,400. And West Battle is receiving just under 2,500. this in 2021. Mille Lacs is stocked every other year, and it was stocked last year, but it won't be stocked in 2021. The next year it'll be stocked as 2022 with 3,000 fingerlings. And like I mentioned earlier, Mille Lacs fared very well last year with the muskie yearlings that Muskies Inc. Helped purchase that were raised down in the Waterville State Fish Hatchery to the 17 to 20 inch size. And then also the Grand Rapids area office made a huge effort and went in and got some carryover yearling fish from a local rearing pond, and they got about 600 of those fish, and most of those fish went into Mille Lacs. So we feel really good about just kind of, even though we didn't do any egg collection last year or any spawn activities for muskies, we still got some lakes stocked with those bigger fish, which we think will benefit all those lakes in the future. So kudos to you guys for being great partners and working with us on this, and still being able to get something out of a year where we didn't have any egg take operations with muskies. So summary from last year, from those yearlings, we had about 2,000 fall yearlings, went into 8 lakes in the fall. I got to turn my computer off here, the sound, so you don't hear every time I get an email. About 600 of these fish came from natural ponds, like I mentioned. Mostly that was a Grand Rapids natural rearing pond. And the other 1,400 were from the Waterville State Fish Hatchery that you guys purchased, and that were raised to about that 17 to 20 inch. So basically what we stocked last year, let's see here. Bald Eagle got 264 of those yearlings. French got 80. Mille Lacs got 1,000. Waconia got 205, White Bear got 82, Alexander got 105, Chaminade 87, and Spider got 135. So that was our summary from last year, and pretty happy with what we made out of a year where there was no egg take operation. So kudos to you guys, kudos to the area offices across the state that put in the extra effort. Grand Rapids is one of them, to get those fish, just for just to meet, some of our quotas on our statewide lakes. Number 3 topic, the third topic, the number of tiger lakes in the metro has decreased overall. Are there plans or opportunities to increase or stock them with pure strain? Can the chapters assist with the stocking to increase the overall opportunity for anglers in the metro? I guess but the best answer for that one is, the reduction of the tiger muskie lakes in the metro is due to evaluation back in the mid-2000s. I was actually over at the West Metro office, and I was actually the lead on putting together just kind of a spreadsheet on, our tiger muskie lakes, at least in the West Metro area, and putting together, looking up, lake survey info, talking to our conservation officers that are out on the water, looking, creel data, just digging up as much info as we could, talking to anglers about certain lakes. And, certain lakes were dropped because we felt like just the stockings weren't effective and people weren't fishing those lakes. Just off the top of my head, there were a couple Carver County lakes that we just stopped stocking. It just wasn't worth the effort. And then I guess in West Metro, as you all know, some of the Metro lakes, or the Minneapolis City lakes, were switched over from tigers to pure strain, which that decreased the number of tiger muskie lakes. And I think in the East Metro, we got rid of maybe a couple that we just felt like we weren't seeing those fish contribute to an angling opportunity in some of those lakes. But and I guess kind of to the question of could we stock pure strain muskies in those lakes to make up for it? We have certain water quality standards with stocking muskies, and some of these tiger muskie lakes generally don't meet those standards. And so that's one reason. And then also, as you all know, stocking any muskies in any lake is somewhat of a political polarized deal here in Minnesota, and we have to be kind of sensitive about that. moving forward. So that's another consideration. But at least in the office that I'm at, East Metro, we've discussed trying tiger muskies in some of our smaller lakes. And then there's also some interest in expanding tiger muskie opportunities to greater Minnesota. I know some of the offices up in northwest Minnesota are thinking about trying tiger muskies on a couple of their lakes. So I guess stay tuned on that one, and we'll just kind of see where that goes. But at the end of the day, any kind of muskie stocking, whether it's tigers or pure strain, it can be kind of a polarizing deal. So we're just trying to be careful with that. And we're going to, address some of those in the long range plan when that comes to be in the next year or so. On to number 4, 2021 egg take operations and plans. Muskie egg take in 2021. Plans are being made to resume our egg take activities in 2021. COVID-19 protocols are being developed to ensure the activity can be done safely. We think it can. It's just kind of in the approval process right now. Everything we do generally is outside, and that's the best place to be working right now. So we have that going for us. So we're just kind of waiting. So preliminarily, we're hoping that we can continue we can get our egg take operations up and running again here in 2021. We feel cautiously optimistic that it will happen. So that's pretty much all I know right now. And then so our plans are to collect eggs from Rebecca, which is our normal brood lake out in Hennepin County. West Metro does that. And then also leech. This is a year where Leech Lake proper fish are collected at Leech Lake, and those will be stocked into select lakes and then also back into Rebecca, so we can get some of that pure Leech Lake strain genetics into the population at Rebecca. Let's see, DNR assessments on number 5. DNR assessments on key forage or bait overall and in key lakes and management of them. There's research going on in Minnesota looking at forage in our muskie lakes and what muskie and other predators are eating, and if there is diet overlap. I'll cover this later when I talk about current research and a topic down the road here. 6, zebra mussel status around the state. Any plans on management of them or to use them to introduce bluegills into Mille Lacs to attempt to control them since they like to eat them. There are a few zebra mussel projects going on in Minnesota by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, some of our researchers, and then also the U of M, and kind of how they're affecting our food webs in our lakes. Bluegills are already present in Mille Lacs, not in high numbers, but they're present. Mille Lacs is kind of an interesting lake. It's getting clearer. It has been getting clearer since, the Clean Water Act in the 70s. You're seeing clearer water, more vegetation. It's more conducive to species like bluegills and smallmouth and muskies and pike. And so bluegills, we're seeing more bluegills out there. So they're already out there. So we would never stock it. It's such a big lake that stocking it wouldn't make much of a difference. But what we are trying to find out is just kind of what's eating, not more of what's eating zebra mussels, but that's part of it, but how zebra mussels are more or less competing for food resources with game fish at those really young stages of life, like when they're juvenile, like when they're fry, when they hatch out of the egg and they're eating those tiny little things that are filtered by zebra mussels, those tiny little food items in the water column. That's what those smaller juvenile fish are eating too. So that's what we're really trying to see, is if there's any diet overlap there or how they're affecting our juvenile game fish species. So that's kind of the biggie with zebra mussels. Number 7, any nuggets of information that you believe our members would be interested in hearing about. The first thing that I just wanted to say is just very proud of the collaboration with Muskies Inc. Last year to select, those a certain number of lakes and to get 8 lakes stocked with those fall yearlings. plenty of coordination that had to go on and a lot of hard work that went into it, and a good product came of it. So just wanted to give you guys a thank you and kudos for that. And from this, we have, and I'll discuss this a little bit later here, this project, and then some of the research that Andrew Skolton's doing down, or some of the work he's doing down in Waterville, and then Kristen Macaroni in West Metro looking at fingerlings versus yearlings, and the effectiveness of those fish, basically making it to adulthood, to the end of your line. We're seeing that we can maybe adjust some of our ratios from our fingerlings to yearlings or adults. So this could lead to more opportunities to stock yearlings or larger muskies in certain lakes across Minnesota. So thanks for helping out with that, and good things to come, I think. St. Croix and Mississippi River status on invasive carp. Currently, right now, the plans are there's a Pool 8 modified unified method that's going to be happening in early April down there. It's basically a method of using different forms of fish sampling, whether it's seining, electrofishing, gill nets, underwater sound, to more or less herd invasive carp to a location where they can be easily captured or seined. And some of the equipment that you guys help purchase for the invasive carp program will be used in this project. So it's pretty cool. And last fall, invasive carp staff successfully tagged 5 silver carp in the fall, and that's a big win. Just being able to identify locations, we can actually track those and find out where these fish are congregating and locating, and that'll give us a good start to try to herd all these fish up and see what we can find out about the current status of the populations down basically down in the La Crosse area. So let's see. So that's good. So that's pretty, that's kind of the big thing that's going on this spring. We're just going to continue to monitor invasive carp and try new methods to locate, track, and remove them, just like I explained before with the modified unified method. It looked like we had our highest year of total invasive carp, which is grass carp, silver carp, big head carp, all total in 2022. And a lot of that is we started saying, it could be a lot of things. We're not really sure why, but a lot of it is we started sampling down in those areas on the lower Minnesota or in the lower Mississippi River, which our invasive carp crew doesn't get down there. They kind of have focused their efforts in the metro area. But now they're starting to reach out and sample some of those areas down closer to La Crosse and Winona. So that could be it as well. But we have, a full crew, plenty to keep them busy. And, your guys' help is contributing to that effort. So thank you with that. Number 9, obstacles facing the DNR fisheries overall that we should be aware of or can try to assist with. Right now it's just getting, one, I guess kind of the biggie right now is just trying to get our core field work done safely during this pandemic. We had a great year last year with getting most of our core work done, which I think back on it with all the restrictions, feel pretty proud about that. We still got most of our lake surveys done. We still did, got a lot of our core work done. And so a lot to be proud of there. We had a couple, including the muskie egg take and the muskie population estimates, having 3 people in a boat to sample those using trap nets. Those weren't allowed last year because too many people in a small space, and we're hoping to get that approved this year. So hopefully we can get that approved so we can do our egg take operation this year and do our muskie population estimates statewide, because going back to that kind of that long-term protocol that we established in around 2015, the best way to compare our lakes statewide and to look at our stocking, the effectiveness of our stocking, is to actually do population estimates. So that's a big part of our management and moving forward, and hopefully we're allowed to do that again here in 2021. So I think just you guys have been great to work with. I think just working through this pandemic and getting a few more activities approved should help us get back to, somewhat of a normal year. Granted, it's always going to, right now everything's just harder. For instance, we have to, when we go out to a lake or we're out in the field, we can only have one person per vehicle, so the logistics are always a little bit tougher. And we have, and so everything's just a little bit harder right now. And we feel like we had a good year last year and worked through a lot of those challenges. So pretty happy with that. Let's see, number 10, any legislation pending introducing impacting fisheries that we all should be aware, or just for muskies. Nothing that I'm aware of. As you all know, muskie management can be somewhat of a polarizing topic here in Minnesota. But, I haven't heard of any bills right now limiting what we can do within the DNR with muskie management. Who knows what'll happen the rest of the session here? Not sure, but I haven't heard of anything. And so our population estimate info that I talked about earlier, that we accumulate every year, that we add to our data set, and then our current research that we're doing right now that I'm going to talk about in a little bit here, could help inform citizens and our legislators about muskie management and populations in Minnesota. So we're doing what we can to try to get past that kind of polarizing muskie, the feelings that are out there that muskies are, going to eat all the other fish in the lake. They're going to eat all the walleyes that we stock, etc. So just trying to put data, truth matters, and data matters, and hopefully we can put information to that to try to educate folks in Minnesota on muskie management. Any studies going on that impact muskies or their forage, or that we need to be aware of. Right now, Cameron Glade, a grad student at Bemidji State, and Brian Herwig are currently working on a diet study of muskies and other predators in lakes all over Minnesota. Bald Eagle was one of their study lakes, and we helped them back in 2019. And their research showed diet overlap, which is pretty cool. Diet overlap is pretty low with muskies and pike. Muskies, pike, walleye, and bass. So muskies aren't really eating the same food items that pike, walleye, and bass are, which is pretty cool. That kind of goes to the whole thing of, muskies are eating all, they're eating all the walleyes in the lake. They're all the walleyes that, and you guys all know this, and I've talked to other people that were against muskie stocking, and I've always said, some of our best walleye lakes up in northern Minnesota are also some of our best walleye lakes, but this study is going to go to kind of driving home that message that, from what we're seeing on a lot of our lakes, and especially on Bald Eagle, there's just low diet overlap. Where we did see moderate to high diet overlap was with pike and walleye, and then walleye and largemouth bass. Those two combinations. And so with walleye populations in Minnesota, I think the bigger issue is, these high-density pike populations, where you have 20 pike per gill net, you have a bunch of small pike. That's really what's potentially affecting, perch forage. It's also affecting, some of our walleye recruiting to, the size that anglers want to keep them. There's just that many more mouths in a population of a larger pike population that could potentially affect, walleye populations. Let's see here. Stable isotopes of nitrogen and carbon are frequently used to determine the mix of diet sources for consumers, and this is kind of going back to that diet study that I just talked about here. And so, based on stable isotope, the species that overlap most on Bald Eagle were largemouth bass and northern pike. Muskies were distinct from everything else. Basically, they're just feeding at different levels of the food chain compared to pike, bass, and and walleye. That's good. It's good information, in the future if we want to potentially add some musky lakes to our statewide program. This is the kind of information that we can use. But the summary and the analysis is still ongoing, so this is all preliminary data right now. So on Bald Eagle Lake, muskies are primarily eating bullheads, which is kind of cool. Walleyes were eating bullheads, followed by sunfish and yellow perch. Northern pike were eating bullheads, sunfish, yellow perch, white sucker, and some invertebrates, which is kind of surprising a little bit. And then bass were eating bullhead, sunfish, yellow perch, white sucker, and inverts. So pretty cool information there. Another study, basically kind of going off of this diet study, is a predator bioenergetics project. And this is Tyler Ahrensdorf. He's a researcher up in Brainerd. This project wants to build on Brian Herwig's diet study by combining population estimates and then with bioenergetics. So basically using calories and how much fish eat based on water temperature, etc. You can figure out how many calories are consuming, and then you can extrapolate that to within a year. And so basically, this study wants to examine how much food muskies, walleyes, northern pike, and largemouth bass populations consume in several lakes. And an update on that was we canceled the spring population estimate on Bald Eagle Lake last year. In 2019, we did the recap run, caught a lot of nice fish out on Bald Eagle, but we weren't able to do it in 2020 due to COVID restrictions. So initially, it's such a huge undertaking with coordination with research and then our office that decided to maybe just take Bald Eagle out of the project. But it's looking now, I've been talking to Tyler, and it's looking like we may, for sure we're going to put off a year. We were going to do a population estimate out on Bald Eagle in this year and then in 2022 and finish up in 22. But in order to maybe be a part of Tyler's bioenergetics project, we're going to put it off a year, and he may be able to get additional funding and tack on a year, and then we'll be able to include Bald Eagle in his study. So that's pretty exciting. But they're also part of the study is Chaminade Lake up in Little Falls, and then I believe Spider Lake is the other lake up in the Grand Rapids area. That's also going to be part of the study. So really excited about this kind of the recent muskie research that's being done, kind of addressing, a lot of the questions about stocking muskies. Are they eating all the fish in the lake? Are they affecting the other populations in the lake? So that's really what this research is trying to get at, which is really cool. Another study, you've probably all heard of this, is the NAP scientific study that was published back, and I think this was published back in the mid-2000s. But anyways, Mike Knapp and Steve Miro, kind of the two primary authors, they went back and reevaluated the whole analysis again and added more data from from the last 6 or 7 years and did kind of a 2.0 version. And so they reevaluated it and reassessed it, and their results, what they found is like the first study, the results, our results is basically from the abstract of the papers. Our results are evidence that the introduction and management of muskellunge in these lakes has not adversely affected game fish populations. So good news there. And then lastly, some recent work with MNDNR fisheries management, kind of I talked about producing these larger yearlings or larger fish to stock in area lakes instead of fingerlings. A lot of that's being summarized right now, but we think we may be able to alter kind of that standard conversion that we use from a fingerling to yearling or a fingerling to an adult ratio that we have in our muskie stocking protocol right now. We think they may be a little bit too conservative. We may be able to, instead of doing a one spring yearling would equal 2 fingerlings ratio we might be able to do a 1 to 3. And so what that's going to do, just based on some of the research that we're seeing and some of the projects that are going on, we can spread fish out a little bit better and get a lot more lakes stocked with these larger fish if they're available. And so so we're just kind of working on that and working through some of that right now as well. So let's see, number 12, any new data on muskie mortality rates or assumptions? It looks like fall sucker fishing potentially has led to increased handling and mortality as a result. And are our assumptions too low to replace the top level fish fast enough? A lot of our lakes we're putting fish pit tags in them. Bald eagle is one of them, and actually having fish pit tagged. So we'll have a known age, we'll have growth rates, we'll have mortality rates, and so those pit tag information or those pit tagging events will help us understand kind of mortality rates a little bit better and understand their life history a little bit better. So like I mentioned before, these fish are a long-lived species. It takes time. For example, a bluegill population, you should know within 4 or 5 years if you have a good year class coming through. Many times it takes a muskie that was stocked as a fingerling to actually be big enough for us to catch in our trap nets or electrofishing or our gear. Sometimes it takes 6 or 7 years to actually catch them and to study them. So it's going to take a little time here to understand that a little bit better. But the nice thing is, in the fall when, with sucker fishing, fish do a little bit better. They can be stressed out a little bit more, and it won't stress them out as much. So very good question, and hopefully our pit tagging and our population estimates that we're currently working on right now can help with that question. The Lake Vermilion population estimate that was done it was done back in 2019. They marked 715 individual fish for this that first year of a 2-year project, and which is super impressive. It was a statewide endeavor. I had one individual from my office that was up there for a week. Folks were traveling all over from DNR offices across the state to help out. There were muskie anglers that were in the public were volunteering, so it was really a big project to pull that off, and they did a great job. But then COVID hit, so 2020 we didn't do the recap part of that. So the plan is this year, I know that office, they have a lot of staff limitations, some retirements, and then some folks have been transferring to other offices within the state of Minnesota. So they're kind of at a low staffing pattern right now. So to pull this off would be a real challenge this year. And then they also are doing a creel survey, which is a big endeavor. They're doing that this year. So the creel's the focus this year, and then hopefully 2022 and 2023 we can do another population estimate out there. And both these kind of projects will help contribute to the large lake management plan that will be, I think that's coming up in 3 years. So I think we can pull it off, and it's a pretty big, undertaking, and it'll require a lot of volunteer help and also other area offices going up to help. So the hope is to get out there and do it again in 2022 and 2023. But the fact that we tagged 715 fish in 2019 is pretty impressive. So that's the status out on Lake Vermilion. Any projects, Voyager National Park Shoepack population assessment, I'm not aware of any of that. I could probably look some of that up, and if you guys have more questions on that, I can check with the area office that manages up there, but I haven't heard of any new projects up there regarding the shoepack strain. And then anything else that I would like to mention during my talk, I think the main thing is just, thanks for your time and appreciate all your support over the years. You guys are a great group to work with. What I really appreciate about you guys, like I mentioned, is you're a muskie focused group, but you also help out with other fish species statewide and in our office. And I think that kind of speaks to your guys' just overall appreciation for all of our fishing opportunities in Minnesota. So just want to thank you for that, and thanks for all your support of over the years. And like I said before, you can Google Minnesota DNR East Metro Area Fisheries for my contact info, or you can get it from Mr. Maruz if you have any follow-up questions. So thanks for your time. And hopefully next year, either Joel in our office, our Metro River specialist, can come up and talk to you guys, or I can come up again and do it in person and kind of get back to normal. So thanks again. You take care of yourselves and have a good fishing year in 2021 here. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone.